And then the Taxxon says, "Sree, shway, snurp, snurp." And Visser 3 says, 2 minutes to lift off? Too long.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series book by book. I'm Eddie.
I'm Chris.
I'm Miranda.
And we're the
Anidorks!
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
It was a dark and stormy night. Sorry, I've always wanted to write that, but it really was a dark and stormy night. I love that. That's just like one of my faves.
I think it was so good. That's the beginning. That's legit the beginning of chapter 16. And I think we need to have a writing competition where that is mandatory as the first.
Yeah, so they're going, this is the second of the two.
Yes, infiltration round 2. And Jake is mysteriously absent.
Which is the second time someone has been in a different place than we expect them. I feel like Tobias already being in bird morph in the first book, Jake being absent, throwing some sort of off-kilterness.
You're right, because in the first book, Tobias was in bird morph and Cassie had been kidnapped.
Yes, exactly.
So
Cassie
someone's
was
missing.
right.
Yeah, someone's missing. It's a theme. And just general bad vibes. And Tobias is like, all right, it's a go. Fluffer is waterboarding a rat. Don't worry about it. He's weirdly into it. Just keep going.
It's consensual.
I don't know if it's safe or sane, but it is definitely consensual. All right, that was made clear. Tobias is like, I'll scope out the area. Because they're like, we got to go without Jake. Jake's not here. He said his dad was going to ground him. We got to go. And then Rachel is really not feeling like it's a good feel, but she's like, I gotta do it. And so she morphs into a cat.
And she says she'll feel differently about it after morphing into the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just, she's remembering that Tomcat energy, and she's like, I know I'll feel ready to do this.
Yeah, she's like, I won't feel nervous.
I loved that detail. That was so cool.
And then Cassie pets her for an awkwardly long time.
Hey, I just, before you go in.
And she's like, well, that was nice. I like being petted, but I am done with you.
In true cat form.
It says, I found I soon lost interest in Cassie's expression.
I think we're getting some of K. Applegate's personal feelings about cats here.
Very personal.
Resentful, yeah. I've had this theory about dogs, so not that this is confirmation of how animals feel about this, but cats don't like rain. I could feel the cat's distaste, and she's just saying how it washes away all the scents and the smells. From having a dog and walking that dog, there's a difference when there's rain out, and there's just they're not as interested.
This is why they can never figure out where to poop when it's raining.
It's like all the bathroom signs have been taken down.
Right, yeah. Wait, so talking about animals pooping in the rain could...
Sorry, I made a face. I was just like, I'm intrigued to go on.
Can they poop in their animal form to solve...
You're blowing my mind because it's the same question.
They can eat, so
can you work out as an animal? If you can... But so when Jake ate that spider...
But if you morph...
then get bigger...
And was the spider still in him? Or when he morphs back, will the spider be in the same state of digestion? I mean, we've already established that it doesn't carry wounds, so it shouldn't carry food.
Here's my theory. I haven't checked this in my brain at all, but I'm sure saying it to both of you. If you eat a spider as a newt and turn back into a human, spider stays the same size. If you turn into a snake, which swallows big things whole, and turn back into a human, maybe your GI tract is suddenly in a rather precarious situation.
It's like, we found a bowel obstruction. It's just a lot of bones. Did you swallow a femur at some point?
I mean,
you got me.
You got me. But I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. That's an insanely good question. I feel like the jury's still out.
Cat Rachel arrives back in the house, and things are kind of like they were the last time they were there. So Chapman is watching the TV on the couch.
Wait, is he actually watching TV, or is it turned off?
No.
No, he's watching TV with quotes around it.
Okay. Yes. At the same time, 3 minutes till 8, he stands up and heads down to the basement, and Rachel follows him. So things seem like they're
But she knows she has to be sneaky this time because, like, she's like, if they see me again, they're gonna know I'm an Andalite, and so she's like trying to be all up on his heels, and she's like, I have to be really careful because if I mess up, a cat wouldn't mess up. Like a cat.
Yeah.
But then she hears a bit of thought speech down in the basement where she thought she was too far away from anybody to hear thought speech.
Oh, well caught. You know, I'm such a pleb. Like, I missed, like, that's exactly what she was setting up with, like, Tobias getting foggier.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it's like, oh, the fact that I hear this voice so clearly, it must be coming from nearby. I'm just such a pleb. I, like, actually didn't notice.
It really is the spy novel of the Animorphs books.
yeah.
I'm sure we'll get another one like this, but that's when she gets surprised and she almost trips Chapman, but then she dodges his foot.
Yeah, a little bit of drama as she makes it into the man cave.
And manages to press herself against the wall next to his feet.
Under the desk.
And Jake's like, what up? I'm here.
Yeah.
And she's like, like full cat mode.
She's like, where are you? How are you close enough to talk to me? He's like, oh, well, I'm kind of on you.
Great sentence.
And she's like, this is like, don't mess around. This is not funny. And he's like, yeah, I can't really see. Yeah, I don't see well. And she's like, okay, 10 words or less. What is happening? And he goes, okay, 10 words or less. I morphed. I'm a flea.
So the thing that's amazing about that is it includes 10 words or less in the count. That's the thing that blows.
He still doesn't go over, yeah.
Yeah, he still doesn't go over. I morphed. I'm a flea. Like, that's 5, 10 words or less.
It's still 9.
He doesn't go over. Yeah, it's 9. I wish she had made it to 10. She should have made it to 10.
Oh, wait. Within, it is. In 10 words or less, I morphed. I'm a flea.
Fun.
She did it. She did it.
He can sense her blood, which is creepy.
Yeah, he's like, all I feel is warm or not warm and blood. Which is warm.
Blood.
Yeah, which is warm.
But continuing on with like everything with her with the Rachel with the cat brain, he says it's actually not that bad being a flea because the flea mind is so limited. It's not at all hard to control.
Yeah.
So it's easy to dominate the flea.
Yeah, he's like, I guess the lizard had too much of a sense of fear. The flea is literally just like, I'm warm or I'm not warm, and I'd like to be warm. So as long as you keep the flea warm, it probably isn't trying to fight you at all. It's probably perfectly happy where it is. Mm-hmm. And that's, he's like, it's fine. It's going to be fine. Like, we tested it out. It's not so bad. And that's when Rachel has the bomb dropped on her that everybody's in on this. Cassie was deliberately dropping Jake on her.
Tobias had ratted her out.
Yeah. Tobias didn't know what happened, but he knew something happened.
Rachel makes the point of mentioning as she thinks about Jake being a flea, the idea of Jake morphing into a flea and crawling around in my fur just gave me the worst creeps you can imagine.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
I wouldn't care who it was. That's like super ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Visser 3 hologram is here and we're like, okay, we gotta be chill. And he's like, oh, but Jake's like, oh, who cares if he sees you, right? And she's like, oh, well, that thing I didn't tell you? Visser 3 wants me dead. And Jake is rightly upset, I think, with her for hiding that.
Definitely the wrong time to discuss it. I think, like, I understand why he felt the urgency, but it's also like, you're a flea on this person's back. I think you're along for the ride.
Yeah.
I think
Quite
whatever
literally.
they tell you is what is happening, you need to accept it.
And then, so So there's an interesting thing here when Visser 3 and Innis 226 are talking, where he says that he's recruited some new voluntary hosts, and that 2 were children who were recruited through the Sharing, which is the organization that we visited last time. So we can see here that it's working. Like, they're definitely using it effectively.
Voluntary hosts.
Voluntary hosts.
2 children.
Well, remember, the Sharing is all about we can change your life with this.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sharing, like, every night I fall asleep watching YouTube. And every night I wake up to some 15-minute ad for some sort of weird pastel-colored church.
Like youth group retreat.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And every night I join one.
Yeah, so Visser 3, he doesn't want to hear about this update. He just wants to know about the Andalite bandits. And so he goes, fool! And gets very upset with Chapman / Innis
226.
He's literally reminding Innis 226 that the Andalite bandits have obtained powerful, dangerous earth animals.
And then through utter nervous happenstance of Chapman squirming in his seat, Innis 226 squirming in his seat, he extends his legs, as humans often do when in office chairs, and kicks the hiding Rachel under the desk. And Rachel, the only thing she can think to say...
Please do the sound.
Do the sound. Now you do it.
Oh, I think it was more of a...
That was good. But so blows the fuck out of her cover. Like, she's a very dead kitty at this point. It's not looking good. So in the surprise that Chapman experiences when he discovers the cat, he steps backwards into the holograph of Visser 3. And for a second, Rachel perceives them both as the same entity.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice little literary moment.
Yeah.
Like, that's so good.
Yeah, but so what is the significance of that for you?
It honestly feels confusing considering what's about to happen and also what previously happened. Like the idea of the host being in an impositional, or like the host being in an intermediary state between like other pressures. It feels like it's definitely aligning Chapman as a villain.
Yeah.
In a way, which like feels different than what the book is asking me to do in certain sections.
Yeah.
I guess the last point of that is that maybe it's trying to humanize Visser 3 as also being in the middle of it, but that seems less likely.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I kind of passed over it, so I was glad that I think you noted it in your notes.
Yeah.
So Visser 3 is now convinced that she's an Andalite and that this is a morphed cat. And he's right that it's a morphed cat, but he thinks it's an Andalite. And because of that, he thinks they shouldn't kill it because he wants to figure out where the rest of them are. And so he's going to torture an Andalite. He says it's been a long time since he's tortured a proud Andalite warrior, and I would say it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's a long time for him. He probably got a whole bunch when he shot that chip down. He got an Andalite a day.
Keeps the doctors away.
I like the idea of Visser 3. Visser 3 would totally say that too.
Yeah, he would.
When we get to chapter 18, Chris's notice, let's fucking go!
Let's go!
It really does kick off because it's like Chapman is like lunging for Rachel and she's just like, I go full cat. I let the cat attack. Like, it's great.
It gets so gory. She's just tearing his hands and arms apart. Like, and the book has such a theme of his pain. Like, he voices his pain every other sentence. It's so intense. And then she compares his hands to raw hamburger.
She does.
And she's enjoying it. I was a 10-pound bundle of lightning-fast claws and teeth. Chapman's hand looked like raw hamburger.
Yeah.
And Visser 3 says, a magnificent animal. Twist it around. Hold it with your forearm. And then she says, I did a lot of damage.
Like
You're
that
doing
wicked
damage.
tail. Yeah.
No, there's also claws were lacerating, tearing furrows. She could smell the blood. Like
it hurts. It hurts to read.
I was just 10 pounds of killer.
Yeah. So then they bring the cat. Visser 3 says, just bring it to me. If it tries to remorph, kill it.
Visser 3 also says, and bring the girl.
Yes, he wants to Yeerk
Implying
Melissa.
they're going to Yeerk Melissa.
Yeah.
So they bring the cat upstairs. Now, they use a Draken beam to get her to get into a carrier. Like, he's like pointing a gun at Rachel and he's like, get in the carrier. You're getting in there or I'll vaporize you right now. And so she gets in the carrier.
Right after she gets in the carrier, the host begins rebelling against the Yeerk in his head. The real Chapman starts rebelling because, as was revealed to us earlier, Chapman made a deal to become a host if they wouldn't do anything to Melissa.
Right. But if only that could have happened moments before while he was holding the Draken beam. Like, this book could have been 3 chapters shorter. It would have been her getting out. It would have been a whole different story.
There's also a line about Ms. Chapman also rebelling it just says she suddenly slaps herself in the face, and I'm like, and it says repeatedly that they would have looked absolutely ridiculous to anyone who didn't know what was happening. Because Chapman is just like writhing, and Ms. Chapman is just like slapping herself in the face.
Yes, and Rachel's enjoying it. She's narrating to Jake, the hosts are fighting Yeerks. The human brains are resisting. Chapman is out of control. Miss Chapman is trying to choke herself with her own hand. The Yeerk, she's really giving every play-by-play. The Yeerk is trying to regain control. It's incredible.
And she says it's because of Melissa. They're fighting for their daughter.
Yeah.
But the Yeerks take back over, unfortunately.
Yeah, they win out in the short term. It makes sense. They have to have some sort of like control like that. They start moving towards loading Rachel as Fluffers McKitty into the car to take her to Visser 3.
Yeah. Melissa comes out, asks, Daddy, what are you doing?
And at this point, Innis 226 and the Yeerk and Ms. Chapman had agreed that they would not take Melissa to Visser 3 because if they did anything to her, all that their hosts would have to do is wait for an opportune moment to make them look insane.
Yes, which as like assistant principal,
yeah,
it would be one PTA meeting. He's in front of the parents and he has some sort of mental glitch down, and suddenly, yeah.
So Melissa comes out and he's like, "Oh shit, gotta go," because he's not trying to take Melissa, and she's like, "Why do you have my cat?" And there's this scene in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the old cartoon, where Cindy Lou Who catches the Grinch taking the Christmas tree. She goes, "Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why, Santa? Why?" And I just like, that's how I view Melissa in this. It's just, "Daddy, why are you taking my cat?" Like, why, Daddy?
In my imagination, it's much more like over the top hysterical.
Oh, probably is, but like,
yeah, Melissa mostly gets to cry and be sad in this book. Yes, and so it's just the moment when they thought speak with Tobias, and basically all these characters who have been off stage for multiple chapters finally get to release Fluffer.
Yeah, the B plot's resolved and the streams merge.
Yeah, and then Fluffer comes running, the real Fluffer. And they are saying that the reason Fluffer is moving so fast is because Tobias is in hawk form and flying over.
Yeah, and like flying
a dark shadow
really,
of death.
Yeah, flying really close.
Yeah.
And if it weren't dark outside, everybody would be like, "Why is that hawk chasing that cat?" But you know.
Yeah.
Now, I really thought this was going to come down to a showdown where it's like, I don't know which Fluffer to shoot.
I know.
Like, that's really what I thought was going to happen. But it didn't. It didn't. The dad steps in flawlessly and is like, no, that's the real Fluffer.
Yeah, this is some random lookalike that's been in our house. I'm taking it to the shelter. There's a line. There's a line when the cats see each other that I really liked. For one frozen instant, Fluffer McKitty saw something he never expected to see. Fluffer saw himself.
Oh.
She says that it's like really similar for her being in the cat brain, but that it didn't make sense and it didn't mean anything because she says it wasn't even a part of any cat reality. Like there wasn't a concept of being able to see yourself as a cat, and that to me is just like so wild.
Yeah.
Like what would it mean? It's like, it reminds me of what it would feel like if suddenly you lived your life in third person. You were controlling from like over the shoulder.
Yeah. There's right after that too. I think like maybe one of the most heartbreaking moments with Chapman and Melissa.
Yeah.
When he does explain, another cat broke into our house and I'm taking that cat back. That's a different cat. And then Melissa's like, but why didn't you just tell me that? And Chapman looks confused. I didn't notice you. Melissa stepped back like she'd been slapped. But Daddy, I was crying. And then he goes, sorry. Chapman shrugged. And I feel like Kay Applegate set up this moment, and then she was like, what would Chapman do at this point? And then she's just like, he shrugs and says, sorry. Like,
sorry. Yeah, it's so brutal.
So Chapman throws Rachel in the car, they leave, and Jake's on her, and he's like, I have no idea what's happening. And she fills him in, and she's like, no, you've been morphed even longer than I have, and it's been over an hour. Like, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah, when we get out of the car, like, hop off me. Like, go to safety.
And he's like, nah, no way I'm leaving you alone. She's like, we're trapped. Visser 3 is coming. There's a Dracon bean. I'm going to get recognized if I have to, like, morph out. So I can't morph out. If they know who I am, it'll be the end of all of us. You guys have to go. And Jake just keeps being like, we're not beaten yet. And she's like, and this, like, shook me. She's like, the only hope is for me to stay in cat morph. She has a line a little later about it. I had to die in this body and take my secrets with me.
Oh my God.
She has like several lines about how it's like a small consolation to think that she won't rat out her friends before she dies. Yeah. Again, this character is like maybe 13.
Not to mention, like, after trying to scratch off Jake and feeling convinced that he's gone, like doing the lamest of tests, she's like, Jake, I changed my mind, come back. And he's gone because he knows that she's trying to trick him. But she gives a huge speech on fear.
Yeah.
That is like totally heartrending and like...
And in the middle of it, she describes the bug fighters as about the size of an RV, maybe a little larger.
What do you have a page number for the fear speech?
It's 147 for me.
Or do you mean fear is like a worm inside you? It eats you, it chews your guts. That's like the page before chapter 20.
Yes, fear is like a worm inside you. It eats you. It chews your guts. It bores holes in your heart. It makes you feel hollow, empty, alone. New line, fear. And then she talks about the blade ships, 2 half-finished buildings being nearby. The blade ships landed in between them. The bug fighters came to rest on either side. They looked so strange, parked between yellow-painted earth movers. The earth movers looked like toys. The alien craft looked like deadly weapons. I was afraid. I tried to borrow the cat's courage, his indifference. But then the door of the blade ship opened. I had no courage, only fear. It's just a nice...
It's really
so nice.
Good. And then Visser 3 comes out, and then we get another description of the Hork-Bajir, which look like they're made of knives. And interestingly, the Hork-Bajir are listed as 7 feet tall. It's just an actual numerical imperial measurement. They're 7 feet.
She's grossed out by Taxxons just like Jake was.
Yeah. Oh.
I hope one of them's like, you know what? I think Taxxons get a bad rap.
I think they're cute.
Yeah. She actually describes them as having red jello eyes, just like Jake does. Must be the cousin thing.
Yeah. Visser 3 is here, and he's like, this is the Andalite bandit. He did thought speech now because we're here and in person, and he doesn't have to have it translated. So it is just thought speech. He's just broadcasting it to everyone. Mm-hmm. And he comes right up to the cage and is like gloating, like not so brave now and all these things. And she's like, what can I do? She says that his will is like being imposed in his thought speech.
Right. Like his will is so insane intense and overwhelming. And the feelings of power and hate that are embodied in his thought speech wanted her almost to correct him and to fess up to like, I'm no Andalite bandit, I'm just a human. And she's so convinced she would never survive any questioning from Visser 3 and refers to herself as just a foolish lost girl, which like, yeah, I mean, in this situation, holy shit. Like, yeah, you're talking.
Yeah.
And then she's like, but you know who's not afraid?
Fluffer.
Fluffer.
Fluffer?
Fluffer McKitty.
Fluffer feared big predator birds. Fluffer feared loud, aggressive dogs. Fluffer feared dominant male cats, but Fluffer was not at all impressed by Visser 3.
I love what he does. She lets the cat mind take over, and what does Fluffer choose to do? Take that delicate pink nose that we so admired on Tobias's cat and sniff the Visser.
Just a little sniff of the Visser.
And I think Visser 3 is a little bit charmed, but we know Chris wouldn't be charmed.
Chris would be like, I've been fooled by you before. The next thing you're going to do is go,
That's if Visser 3 is Pizza Boy. Oh, I'm sorry. That's if Fluffers McKitty is Pizza Boy. Although I like the idea of Visser 3 being Pizza Boy. Just go, I'm Visser 3.
I also love that Visser 3 says, this is similar to the... Was that actually Pizza Boy?
That was me, sorry.
This is similar to the orange and black creature that invaded the pool. And then Chapman says, yes, Visser, they are a family of animals, felines. These are the smallest.
So, quick note about that. Big cats aren't felines. They're like Felidae or something else. It's a different branch of the animal kingdom.
It is like, they're related like farther up, I think, but like...
Yeah, but just, it's a, like, they're not felines.
Like, what's the rule? Like, if you meow, you're a feline, but like the big cats all make some other kind of noise. But like weirdly, pumas meow.
Well, you know, taxonomy is a whole right mess anyway.
Speaking of taxxon-omy.
Yeah.
Let's continue with our story. I don't know why I paused in the tax instead of the taxxon-omy.
Oh, so Visser 3 says this charade is pointless. I know what you are. To the cat, which I really wish in this moment it was just a cat, just so he'd look like a fool.
You would feel so stupid if it was just a cat.
Rachel says, I was afraid that if I said anything, he would instantly know I was not an Andalite, and if he realized I was a human, the others would never be safe. I had to stay in this body, I had to die in this body, and take my secret with me.
It's super intense.
Yeah, she's a hero. Unlike Jake, the coward.
Yeah, the coward Jake.
What was the name of the first book? I believe it was The Coward.
And then, in a weird proposition, Visser 3 is like, oh yes, now bring me the girl. I've prepared a spawn mate of yours to go in her head. And it's
in his 455 is like, apparently they grew up together, and it's like, no, you'll like this.
And then he gets ready to do some damage. He puts the tip of that tail at Chapman's puny human neck. And he's like, would you defy me? Because he sees him hesitating. He's like, no, it's just my host. He and the woman, they rebelled. And they're like, oh, you can't control your host? Come on. And he's like, I'm controlling an Andalite. You think it's easy? Bibbitch.
Yeah. Which makes me think, I bet that means that there are some interesting scenes where Visser 3 is alone with that Andalite. Because I bet he doesn't always have control. I bet it's like
when he's trying to put his Andalite pants on 4 legs at a time, and it's just like the legs won't go in.
Slugs don't have any legs.
Oh, that's true. They don't have legs. And then he's like, no, I totally have control over my host. It's totally fine. But, like, if he were to make me look crazy, or, like, he says, I can't have him causing my body to twitch and shake because humans see this as a sign of mental illness, and they look down on that, and they're like, he's like, I could lose my position, and then I won't be of any use to you. Visser's like, you're barely of use to me now. And Chapman's like, that was a wicked burn, sir. You really got me.
But I still think you should take this seriously. Jokes aside.
And he's like, my host wants to talk to you. And there's a moment where they talk about Chapman, like, forgetting how to control his body. Like, when he hands control back over to the real Chapman, like, can't stand. He can't talk. And it's just like, what is the other brain doing in all this time? Like, I'm really curious.
I don't know. It's like the other brain has been detached from the body and the Yeerk has like fully swelled up inside or something. Does that make sense? It's like, I guess what I'm saying is like Chapman has been like in a coma.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But sort of aware of what's happening.
Chris is saying all this, but Chris's note is Chapman's drunk.
That is what I wrote because like listening to the audiobook, hearing that voice actor try and say all the like...
Yeah, it does say he's slurring his words and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all written out. It's like long.
During Chapman's impassioned plea about how his wife is kind of the one who made this deal and he just went along with it because they said, like, they promised they wouldn't hurt Melissa, but he's promising to fight, Rachel notices a glimpse of movement in the woods on the edge of the construction site.
Yeah.
So it's a little, for your back pocket.
Oh, like, yeah, maybe some help is on the way.
Maybe. And then it's a really, actually, like a very heartwarming kind of speech about how he did, like, something he considered to be, like, unthinkable and horrible just to protect his daughter. And there's nothing he can do but promise to fight every day to make their lives harder. And it's barely a threat, but it's all he can do. And he does it with every ounce of his being. And it's like really, really sweet.
Yeah. What Chapman is counting on is that he is actually an important host to them, which I think Innis 226 doubts, but Chapman seems to know. He's calling Visser 3's bluff that he's not, like, Chapman is not disposable to Visser 3.
And I wonder why, to a certain extent. Maybe partially because, well, but there are entrances to a Yeerk pool in the school. So, like, having control in the school is important, but he has to know that the longer he waits to, like, press this, the more other people in power they're going to have Yeerk.
Less important he is, right. In fact, like, he made the exact inverse calculation of what he should have done. Like, he should have been, like, vying for himself in the early days. It's just one of those things of, like, he is less significant the longer he waits. You're absolutely right.
But, once you're Yeerked, something really strong has to motivate you to be strong enough to fight back. Like, just trying to jockey for control out of a vague, ambiguous fear for his daughter wasn't enough. She had to be placed in harm's way for him to have any ability to get control back over the body. The Visser concedes, eventually, that at least for now, having brought him the Andalite bandit is enough, and he's not going to rip Innis 226 out of Chapman's head yet. I'm sorry, suck. He said suck out of the head. And Rachel feels a little comforted that she actually now thinks that Melissa is safer with Chapman than she did when this whole thing began. Obviously not as safe as if he didn't have a Yeerk in his head, but she knows that Melissa's dad, who loves her, is there and he is doing his best. So she leaves a little heartened. She's accepting she's gonna die, and she's left her friend in a better position than she thought she found her in. And then Jake says he's still there, as they're
Newsflash, I've been a flea on your back this whole time.
Newsflash.
And Rachel once again goes, "Wow," and like jumps and spins around, which I think should call attention to her, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it says, maybe I would die before I betrayed my friends. A depressing kind of thing to hope for. And then thought speech bubbles. So what's happening now?
Yeah.
And he's like, what? Why would I leave? And she's like, maybe because I literally asked you to.
This is my big Jake moment so far. It's just the relationship between him and Rachel here. I like that we see this part of their dynamic. Where they're not just teasing, but like that he's really looking out for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so Rachel points out like how dire their situation is. It's like, hey, you chimed in at the absolute wrong time. We're about 10 feet from being loaded into Visser 3's blade ship. I have about 15 minutes left before I'm trapped in this morph. And then he does the mental math to say, oh, well, if you have 15 minutes, I got like 10. So.
And he's like, it's great. We got plenty of time. And then the door of the blade ship opens. And this next thing is not important, but it is just a thing I thought about. It says, I could see a handful of taxxons that seem to be standing over control panels of some sort. And just the image of these large, like, wiggly wriggly, jello-eyed centipedes, like, beep, boop, beep, like trying to push. It says it has, like, thousands of legs, and it's just, like, trying to hit buttons.
It's like how I am at work. I just slap my face on the keyboard until people stop yelling at me.
I imagine, like, have you ever watched someone play Beat Saber, the VR game, but not seen the Beat Saber stuff that's going on? Like, that's what I imagine the Taxxon is. Like, it's just like wild arm movements that don't seem to correspond to anything that's happening.
It's the first sign of intelligence, I think, that we
That's
have.
true.
Of Taxxons, yeah.
So Jake explains that Tobias has been following them. So Jake and Tobias have been direct messaging each other, which I assume is happening all the
Like
time.
I said earlier, sliding into the DMs.
You've never sounded older saying direct messaging, my friend.
Okay, my first time saying this, Miranda, cut that. That's embarrassing because I say that all the time.
They slid into my direct messages. Oh my god.
Tobias has been following them. The rest are supposed to show up soon, and then just at that moment, Rachel hears a strange sound. My cat brain didn't recognize it, but the human me did. It was an engine, a big engine, like a big truck. So basically, the rest of them, Cassie and Marco, right?
That's all that's left.
Yes.
Sometimes I think there's more Animorphs than there are.
My god, all last recording session, I said there were 6 of them. Like over and over and over.
But they're driving earth movers. Basically, what they do is they start crashing. I'm confused about this. They're turning the earth movers on and having them drive towards.
They're just like driving into the ships, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But then running away from the...
I guess
I mean, like, something you can do is you can jam a brick on the accelerator, right? Like, I don't know, maybe they're, like, doing something like that. They're
starting
just
a bunch of them and pointing them toward the ships.
And just letting it happen.
Yes, okay. And then things escalate.
Things escalate, you're absolutely right. This shit gets buck wild.
And Jake says, I'm gonna try a quick double morph.
Do you think he practiced?
I think he did. I think he had to think about what to call it, because
he's trying to impress his cousin.
This is the first time we really talk about, like, the idea that they can't morph directly from one creature to another, that they have to morph back into a human first. Mm-hmm. Because when I first read this, and I was wrong, but when I first read this, I thought he was still in the cat carrier morphing back into a human, and I was like, what is going on? But he is not. And then the Taxxon says, Sree, shway, snurp, snurp. And Visser 3 says, 2 minutes to lift off, too long.
I feel like it was very easy for someone to spot Jake in human form here.
Yeah. I don't think there's any hiding it, you know, just a young lad standing in the middle of a bunch of Hork-Bajir.
There's a lot of chaos.
A lot of chaos, but also a lot of, you know, the kid who thought he'd join the basketball team. And, you know, like a lot of a lot of like all-American, wholesome Wheaties.
And so while our old wholesome all-American boy's doing that, Visser 3 kills a random Taxxon and 3 other Taxxons rush over to start eating it. And then we hear more diesel engines, or it's getting closer. The diesel engine's getting closer.
More chaotic. Yeah, the Earth Mover is going to crash into the Blade ship, or the Bug Fighter. I forget which at this point. Suddenly, I saw a brilliant red light. There was a sizzling sound. I saw an Earth Mover disintegrate. My heart was in my throat. Marco, Cassie, had they gotten away? I had to concentrate. I had to ignore the Taxxon screams. I had to stop wondering whether Cassie and Marco were even humans or alive. Not too far, Rachel. Not too much. I could not become...
Wait, what did you just...
I just skipped over some
Amazingly,
stuff.
you were... That's fine. Amazingly, you were reading all this, and you skipped the near-dead Taxxon screamed as his fellow Taxxons ate him alive.
Yeah.
You just didn't...
I believe that.
Just didn't think that was...
She gets all the violence out with the Taxxons. This is your big moment, Chris, because this is the image that you explained to me what was happening.
Oh, well, I want to hear you explain it.
I could not become human, not totally human. I looked down at my paw. Short, stubby fingers had appeared. So this is not what I imagined. I stuck my stubby half-human fingers through the bars of the cage and found the lock. I'm realizing that I made it more complicated while listening to you.
What did you think was happening?
So, we have a cat inside a cat carrier, and she has to unlock it. So I thought she was sticking her cat paw through one of the little squares, you know. It's outside, and then she was blooming like her cat paw into a human hand after it had been stuck through, and then getting the lock from there, which
blooming is such an intense verb to use in that situation. I don't fully get it.
I just thought she was sticking her hand through. The visuals aren't going to be very helpful here, but and then once her paw pokes through, she's suddenly like unfurling it into a human hand at the end of the cat paw. I don't know why I thought that.
That's
but,
effectively correct.
So instead she sticks her fingers through the cage.
Yeah,
she's not sticking
right.
the paw,
You're right.
and then
you're right, because the paw wouldn't fit through the grate. You're absolutely right. But you weren't far off. It's just about when the hand blossomed.
And like
blossom.
I don't know what a half human finger is. Does that mean it's like bean at the end, or like it's cat for one knuckle and then
I think it's like a werewolf hand with like those weird long toothy nails. You know, like those things, like those weird conical nails. At the end? That's what I think. That's my guess.
What this tells me is that Rachel could bloom a human mouth on her cat face, and that just opens all kinds of possibilities. It's
ones I want to investigate. Please go on.
What are you saying, Eddie? Yeah, hold on. Wait, what fantasy are you living in?
I just think it's like a disturbing image to imagine a cat.
Disturbing. It's like it's.
Are you guys like?
Which maybe she could talk.
Are you guys not on like TikTok and Snapchat where people do like the face swap filters with their cats all the time?
I'm on it enough to know that this is messed up. What I'm hearing.
So luckily for our brains, before Rachel can morph a human mouth onto her delicate little cat face, Jake morphs into a tiger.
Yeah, it wastes no time, and apparently has minimal time in the liminal space, which all the Zoomers love liminal spaces.
Yeah.
So.
And then it says, she describes herself as she's running away as a clumsy mass of fur and skin.
I'm imagining a Puss in Boots, but half human.
Well, like, here's the thing that's sort of baffling about that is, like, the cats have skin under their fur, right? So is she just saying there's, like, patches of skin? Because you could describe a cat as a mass of fur and skin and be technically accurate. You'd be weird, but like that'd be true.
I don't know. You don't talk about it. Is it skin or flesh? It's skin.
It's skin.
Then you're out. Yeah.
Anyway.
Maybe she just had less control over the half morph than
Cassie had, right?
Yeah. Which I feel like Rachel leveled up a lot here, and I don't think that she earned it. If Cassie was the artful one,
Wait, what do you mean by that, Eddie?
So she just got very adept at morphing, and I don't know that it makes... We're on book 2.
May have been out of necessity.
Yeah. But it means that they all have probably a lot more... They could all be Cassie's eventually, maybe. I'm sure Cassie will always lead, but...
Jake attacks.
Jake's in full tiger mode, just going for the throat again, trying to get enough of a hurt to get away, and then they make it out through the bug ship. Both of them are running, and 30 miles per hour is apparently fast enough in her cat form, and the tiger can't even go faster than that in short sprints, but I don't fully understand what Rachel is.
So Rachel has morphed, I think, back all the way into a cat so that nobody knows she's human.
Okay.
And she's doing 30 miles an hour.
Did she reset her clock then?
No, she didn't make it all the way back to human.
Because she's still desperate.
Yeah,
she's still like, there's that desperation, yeah.
She climbs into a dark hole on one of the half-finished buildings.
And she keeps trying to morph back.
Visser 3 morphs into another, like, he must have gotten this. What was the saying from the first book? It was like the fourth moon of the third system of the... This is
second star.
The third star of the something. It's like just to the left of that one, he got this morph. And he's like, I'm about to strut my stuff all over suburbia.
He was 20 feet tall as a telephone
he gets two. He gets two descriptions. And also, wink, wink, head similar in size to a human.
Whoa. Wait, say that again.
So, let me find the description. I don't have page
numbers. I hear
numbers.
what you're saying. location number?
I have it in my notes. Chapter 21, I think.
Wait, I don't understand the...
So this is why they can't Yeerks can't Yeerk cats. So Miranda's saying...
I wonder if there's a
Miranda
really
is so much
limited
smarter.
size.
Miranda is so much smarter than I'll ever be. Miranda just showed me Checkmate in 4, and I'm still like, but what are you talking about? Like,
he was 20 feet tall as a telephone pole. He stood on 3 massive legs, each as big around as a redwood tree. He had a tiny head, not much bigger than a human head. And I just like... We didn't get a good description of the Antarian Bogmorph's head or anything, but I wonder if, like, they have to specifically fit in the head. I don't know. It just struck me that it was the same size as a human head.
I don't know. That's, and I mean, that descriptor is so weird. I think you're onto something. I don't know. I'm into it. I'm bought in.
Also, if that's true, she's putting a lot more thought into this again than I thought that she was at this point.
But I think, like, at the same point, like, it reminds me of someone who's so zeroed in on something, they can't see what their blind spots are. Like,
yeah, no, true.
Yeah, it's
also
like,
because it's a very silly way to communicate this. Is like he had a tiny head, not much bigger than a human head. Like there are other versions of this where it doesn't have to have the
yeah.
So that was the second
right.
thing I was talking about. That there were 2 things that had me thinking about the head size.
Damn, dude.
Yes. So there's a lot of stomping and a lot of smashing.
A lot of boom crunching.
Yeah. Boom, crunch, the sound of your Yeerk.
A bug fighter explodes.
And then through all of it, in the midst of everything, she's running like crazy on this thin, like, walkway with all this metal, and suddenly something, as she, like, leaps over this pit of, like, rusty metal, something sharp grabs her back.
Oh, yeah, because she's still little. She's
still a cat.
And she's like, oh, this must be what death feels like. This must be the death grips.
And then Tobias fat shames her.
That's what I have in my notes.
Yeah, next time you want to morph into a kitty, pick up one who doesn't eat so much.
Tobias, fucking rude.
But also, thank God you're here.
We're at the club, Tobias. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he flies her away. She sees Visser 3 beating up the Hork-Bajir and Taxxons in the distance. He drops her into trees.
Yeah, in the woods.
And tells her that everyone is okay. And that
she manages to morph back. And so everyone's good to go.
Yeah, suddenly she's reset her timer. Yeah, she's fine.
She just collapses. And then, as a sweet little epilogue to this book that I think was really nice, there's a little bit about how at Melissa and Rachel's next gymnastics class, Rachel just tries to be nonchalant and nice and whatever, but there was a note in Melissa's locker telling her that her father loves her more than he can ever show, signed Someone Who Knows. And she says she thinks that maybe it's her imagination, but Melissa looks a little like she got a little more energy that day. And I don't know, that's just...
Yeah.
And she tells Jake and Marco, you know, I know it's bad for security, know it's sentimental, but I had to do something. And everybody kind of like, is just like, you know what, it was a good thing to do. And we all came out alive.
Yeah. I'm curious about it because I can't imagine for someone to give a secret note where the message of that note was something that was hard for the person to believe. One would imagine it would have to come from a trustworthy source. So the fact that it's coming anonymously, like, it seems like it's like, okay, why would someone who's anonymous be able to tell me that my dad loves me more? My dad's a CIA agent. Something along those lines, right?
Or it's Fluffer.
Or it's Fluffer. Fluffer learned to write.
She should have signed it Fluffer. That would have been...
Oh my God. You're absolutely right. That's disgustingly true.
Wait, why? What?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I love that because it's so baffling that I don't think it gives away. No, it's so baffling that I don't think it gives away the security.
No.
But it like shows some level of...
There's one thing. If Chapman ever saw it and it was signed Fluffer, he would know.
No, but Innis 226 already knows.
He thinks that Fluffer was an Andalite, and why would an Andalite be leaving a kind note to his daughter?
Okay, you're correct about that, but this is like I
Love
feel like it's
Fluffer.
I
P.S.
feel like it's
burn after reading.
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, then
works
Melissa will
for
just
me.
be sitting there and talking to her cat.
And
She
trying to
already
find a
talks to the
lighter.
cat.
Do any of you smoke? Yeah.
To wrap up, as they're talking about next time, Tobias says there will be a next time. There will be a next time until the Andalites return. And scene.
And scene, we did it. Fucking book 2. Nobody knows what happened to that book. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. But if they read it, they do. And you should. Oh, Eddie's already got it ready.
Book 3.
Eddie's got his OG version. No,
Hold up, I wanna see
I
it.
got my second printing the encounter. It's the bullshit
what is the
version.
picture?
It's a half hawk, half boy.
Creepy.
Yeah, it sucks.
Miranda, I've told Chris this before, but I'm pretty sure this Tobias was like my first crush when I was in like second grade. So who is the visitor? Is the visitor Rachel in Chapman's house?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. But I think the visitor is Jordan, her younger sister, visiting her in her sleep to wake her.
I know I'm just your younger sister by 2 years, a thing people say.
Or it's the Fluffer doppelganger.
Oh?
But that's still Rachel. Yeah.
Who is the doppelganger and who is the doppelgangee?
Gangy! Yes! I love that joke. Dude, this book is so heavy.
I really thought this one was
It's
really
so
good.
heavy.
And like
It's
the more
really
I
good.
talked about it, the better it was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for me too. I think I like can't even fathom. I mean, the next book I've read and I'm still like, I need to see it with these new eyes because after reading the first book again, like literally like the fourth or fifth time, it's like the first book is fine, but it feels so detached. It feels like a pilot. It feels like the same thing, but this, like the interiority of this is like Rachel is a full character in a way that is like, if Jake was a full character, I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all.
I think Jake kind of got screwed out of his own first book.
Yeah.
Just
was
by
gonna
virtue
be.
of what was happening.
Yeah.
Tom! That's all he was
Yeah,
Tom! Not-
exactly.
Yeah. Get over it, Jake.
Tom's dead, Jake.
We all drift
Get
apart from our
over it.
siblings, okay? When you turn like 16 and learn to drive too, it's all gonna even back out, I promise.
Your dad was right. It was relationship issues.
Well, friends, there will be a next time until the Andalite returns.
Yeah.
May the
11:10.
Candrona shine and strengthen you.
And strengthen
Yeah.
you. And with your
I didn't have it
spirit.
in front of me.
And with that, I'm going to end my recording.
Yes, let's
Okay,
all
yeah.
press stop. Let's all press stop.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!